as a parent. All right, so you switched away. What are kind of some of the things that struck you right away in switching to Android? Like first week, how are you feeling transitioning away from something you were super comfortable with and going into Android? Did you feel like it was seamless? Everything was there that you wanted to be, or was it totally different?
It was not seamless, but as we've talked about before, part of that is just our brains, and we don't like change, and we have these pathways that we like to follow and things we like to do. I mean, on iOS, this is how I found apps. I swiped down and I typed, and there they were. And, you just have to swipe up on the Pixel. It's not that big of a deal, but just my finger wanted to swipe down.
Yeah,
so that's muscle memory, right? I mean, that's that you're used to doing something. And so, yeah.
I mean, that happened right before we started the show, where it was like we needed to adjust the brightness on your phone, and you swiped up from the bottom. And I now know on iOS, that's how you adjust the brightness and the volume, certain media volume and everything is you swipe up from the bottom.
But see, that's wrong. The right way is to swipe it from the top down. That's the right way.
For this show, that probably is the right way. You're right.
Gosh.
So, yeah, the buttons on the side. It's frustrating to always be doing the same thing and getting a different result.
Okay, so explain that. So you mean the volumes on the side, sometimes they didn't pull up the same they weren't controlling the same things?
Well, you have a volume up and volume down button on the iPhone 7. It is
I do.
On the other side.
It is on the other
side. On the left side.
So, yeah, so I was constantly pressing the button when, there was only one button. And then there's the switch to turn
the do not disturb switch.
Do not disturb switch. And and that was a funny thing that we realized that's strange that the iPhone has the switch and the Android phone did not have the switch, because it seems like that's a very unlike Apple thing.
Some phones have it, like
Some
the
do.
OnePlus. OnePlus has it.
Yeah, that's right. The OnePlus did. Was it just the OnePlus 1 or the OnePlus 3?
Well, the 3 has it. I forget.
maybe.
I think the 3G has it too.
Yeah.
No, but that's a very non-Jobsian kind of thing. Like Steve Jobs didn't want any buttons on the dang thing at all. So the fact that there's a physical switch is one of the many concessions that Apple has made in a post-Steve Jobs world.
Right.
Yeah.
But once I discovered,
if you want D&D, okay, sorry, Megan, go ahead.
Once I discovered the do not disturb that lets you really customize and do not disturb for an hour, do not disturb for 8 hours, do not disturb till I turn that off, I was like, oh, this is better.
Yeah, that's what I was going to riff on.
Because it's managing it kind of automatically. You don't have to think about a switch. I mean, I can imagine the reason that a switch is nice is because on the fly, without having to think about it, it's like, well, I want to go into do not disturb mode right now. Click, you flick it. Having said that, I had the iPhone for a month, and I think I used that switch once. What I realized about myself is I always keep my phone muted for the most part. Maybe on vibrate or whatever. I kept this always off, but maybe part of that is because I always had the Apple Watch on, so it would vibrate, and so I didn't need my phone to really bark at me at all. But I just never touched it.
Yeah, that was something that I definitely missed, getting my notifications on my Apple Watch. And so I do often have my phone on mute as well. So
now, but you were using, at least for the first half, you were using my Generation 1 Moto 360. I'm sorry. Only because it's old and it was one of the first Android Wear devices. It's big. The battery's not as good. I mean, but you were still able to get notifications and stuff on your wrist in that regard, but it was different.
Yeah, it was different. I mean, I also used the Fitbit Surge, which I had, and that was good for working out and measuring my heart rate, but it was really ugly, so I couldn't wear that. I mean, Flo. I mean, sometimes.
Yeah, I know.
It really doesn't matter. And so, I never found something that was as good at notifications and fitness as the Apple Watch.
Apple Watch is good for fitness. I really did not use it for fitness at all. But I could see why it would be a good, a good wearable for that.
I think it's good for someone who likes to track their fitness, and also someone who needs to be encouraged to work out. Neither of which is a problem for you. So.
Okay.
You know what? I agree with Megan. Wearables on Android are terrible.
But the thing about it, and I agree too. But I think the Apple Watch as a piece of hardware is a nicer designed watch than the other watches that are available. But I'm not convinced that Apple has figured out wearable from an OS standpoint compared to Android Wear. So
no, it has not. You are right about that. But I mean, it has like bells and whistles that people actually want. Like it's really, it's nice enough to wear every day. It's a very stylish device. And some people even have Apple Pay on it.
Yeah, and that's one thing I meant to set up. That's one thing you told me to. And
yeah.
for whatever reason, because I'm very easily overwhelmed by things like this, in order for me to set it up, I had to call the bank or whatever, and I just never got around to it. I was like, no, I'm not calling a bank to set it up.
I used Android
I'm sure that
Pay.
would have been super helpful.
I
What did you think of Android Pay?
I loved it because you just tap. It was almost easier. I never used Android Pay on the watch, but it did seem easier because you didn't have to.
Can't use it on the watch. That's the problem.
Oh,
Yeah.
you can't
You
at
have
all?
the actual hardware.
Not yet. It's rumored that the next update and possibly the next crop of watches that we may hear about any day now would have, at least one of them might have that sort of capability, but we won't know that until sometime this week, I'm guessing.
Yeah. Well,
But I'm throwing a tantrum because Apple Watch has had it. I just.
Well,
Like
and that
the one darn thing I want on me all the time.
absolutely, that's one really great feature of having a wearable. At least when you're talking about this kind of walletless payments sort of thing, it's nice to remove any friction whatsoever for it to work seamlessly and everything. And if it's going to work right off your watch, that's one less thing you have to reach in your pocket, pull out your phone, and everything.
But I felt really bad that Megan had the choice of watches that she did because I feel like we could have done more justice. The wearable platform, but
what would have been a better watch for Megan? I think that
maybe a Huawei watch.
Huawei watch though is still pretty big. I don't know. How do you feel about big watches?
For women, that's a little smaller.
Well, I wear that watch, which looks normal on you, which means it's probably pretty big on me.
I was going to say it looks normal, but I realize, it's on me. So maybe that's the difference.
I like big watches. I didn't mind the Moto. I didn't mind the size of the Moto 360. It was the battery it was really the fitness part. And it's 2 years old. It's older than the original Apple Watch. But it was just super frustrating because I would go running and it would just die in the middle of the run. And that was morning run.
That's
I know.
not good.
And then it's
That's
like
not
you
good.
didn't run at all, right? That's the worst.
Yeah.
It's like it never happened.
Don't run unless it's tracked. I mean,
Just don't understand.
So there's like these like bells and whistles, like you said, fun things. I have my fitness connected to, my dad and Leo and a couple of my friends. So we compete on the Apple Watch with that. And, I can swim with it. I can shower with it, all these things. And, using Apple Pay on the watch, it's not that much harder than taking your credit card, but it's the cool factor. It's just like,
yes. I know. Yeah.
And I miss that.
And it works every time, would you say?
No.
Oh, okay. See, that would be enough for me to be like, well, then I'm out. And that has been enough for me to be, I'm out
all the time
on Android
either
Pay.
on the phone.
What's that?
Android Pay doesn't work all the time on the phone.
I know. That's why I never use it because for whatever reason, like the cool factor of touching my phone to pay is not like better to me than something that always works. You know what I mean?
When it does work, it's so satisfying. Like when you just walk into CVS and just tap to pay.
But anytime I go to use it, I stress that it's not going to work. And what do I have to do then at that point? Like it's just not worth the mental anguish.
That's more of a Jason problem, I think, than a technology problem.
No, but it is a technology problem. If it's not going to work 100% of the time, then you're not going to get everybody to use it.
Yeah. That's fair.
You don't want that anxiety. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.